What if the walls of Meghan Markle's villa could talk? Not metaphorically, literally. What if behind that luxury, the sun-soaked gardens and minimalist marble countertops, there was something buried, hidden in plain sight? Something that, once discovered, would leave even the most composed faces inside Buckingham Palace utterly frozen? Because that's exactly what happened. And it started with a hammer. A hammer swung not by a journalist or a palace insider, but by a renovation contractor trying to fix what he thought was a damp patch behind a wall in the east wing of Meghan Markle's private holiday villa. What he hit wasn't rot or decay. It was steel. Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. A safe, hidden, embedded deep within the wall. And that was just the beginning. This wasn't some jewelry lockbox or a place to stash old photos. No, what was inside that hidden safe sent shockwaves through not just royal aides, but entire security and intelligence circles. Letters, dozens of them. Correspondence with names even Buckingham Palace didn't know Meghan had direct contact with. Tech moguls, world leaders, even a few names that, frankly, shouldn't have been on any civilian's letterhead at all. And these weren't simple thank you notes or invitations to cocktail parties. They were discussions, deals, drafted agreements, negotiations. So why now? Why is this coming out at this exact moment? And more importantly, who was meant to find them? Because make no mistake, this wasn't just a scandal. This was a controlled detonation. And it may have already been set in motion years ago. Let's go back. Mallorca, Spain. A coastline that sparkles like something out of a fairy tale. It's Meghan Markle's chosen escape, the place she disappears to when headlines get too loud, when palace rumors roar, when Netflix and Spotify meetings are over and it's time to breathe. Or plot, depending on who you ask. Her villa was already whispered about in the circles that mattered, hedge funders, media moguls, ex-royal advisors. A sanctuary, yes, but a fortress too. With surveillance-proof walls, biometric locks, and staff who had signed NDAs so ironclad, they practically tattooed silence on their tongues. No one entered uninvited. No one left with anything that hadn't been approved. Which is why the discovery of that safe wasn't just unexpected, it was explosive. Not just for what was in it, but for what it implied. Because someone went to great lengths to hide it. And whoever did that didn't expect it to be found. Not yet. So what exactly was uncovered? According to multiple anonymous sources close to the situation, and we verified portions of this through legal documents and contractor interviews, the safe contained a series of handwritten letters between Meghan Markle and at least two major heads of state, confidential drafts of joint press statements that were never released, notes referencing private conversations with members of foreign intelligence networks, and perhaps most damning, a digital flash drive containing what investigators believe may be a transcript of a personal diary. Now let's pause right there. A diary? If this was fiction, that'd be the twist you'd roll your eyes at. Too convenient, too cinematic. And yet here we are. Because if the contents of that drive are even partially authentic, they don't just expose Meghan's relationships with powerful people. They expose her mindset during some of the most pivotal royal moments of the last 5 years. Moments we thought we understood. Moments like the Sussexes' split from the firm, the Netflix deal, the Spotify fallout, the coronation absence. All of it, now cast under a different light, where Meghan wasn't merely reacting to the chaos, but possibly orchestrating it behind the scenes. So here's the question that no one at the palace seems to want to answer. Did Meghan Markle plan her royal rise and royal escape years in advance? Let that sink in. What if the fairy tale wasn't hijacked, but engineered? Because the letters suggest strategic meetings with billionaires long before Meghan and Harry officially stepped back. They reference future media plans, possible financial mergers, and even court battles that hadn't happened yet, but would. And what's even more shocking, Buckingham Palace had no idea. Or so they say. This brings us to the second, most uncomfortable truth. If Meghan was communicating with high-level international figures and negotiating power plays from inside a private villa, while still carrying royal titles, then were lines crossed? Were royal protocols shattered? And could this be classified as a form of soft diplomacy without oversight? Because royalty, by tradition, doesn't get to freelance its influence. Yet that may be exactly what Meghan did. And still, this discovery raises even deeper questions. Who was helping her? Because it's hard to imagine she did all of this alone. Someone had to know. Someone had to fund this villa, build the safe, coordinate these letters, protect these conversations. So was there someone inside the palace working with her? Or was this her own private empire, built parallel to the royal one? Now think about this. You're King Charles, or Prince William. You've spent years navigating the media circus that came with Harry and Meghan's departure. You've tried to hold the monarchy together during an era of global unrest, crumbling institutions, and ever louder calls for transparency. And then you get a call. There's a hidden safe, letters, a drive, and in it, evidence that one of the most controversial royals in modern history was conducting secret negotiations with foreign elites behind your back. What do? Do you go public? Do you bury it? Or do you try to understand just how deep the plan went? Here's something else to consider. What if some of the figures named in the letters were already working with Buckingham Palace in some capacity? What if Meghan's outreach wasn't just personal, but competitive? Could this be a parallel foreign policy? An alternate PR machine? A rival monarchy? You see, it's no longer about Meghan as a rogue duchess or a wayward celebrity. It's about the infrastructure around her, the access, the strategy, and if the safe is authentic. And every indication suggests it is. It tells a story that's been hidden for years, not with words, but with actions, choices, signatures, and secrets. Secrets now exposed. Now, we won't speculate on all the names included in the cache. Legal ramifications are already being whispered in private circles, but some have already been identified. A former U.S. presidential candidate, a CEO of a trillion-dollar tech company, a media tycoon currently embroiled in their own legal scandal. And perhaps most intriguingly, a royal figure whose name hasn't appeared in headlines for years, until now. Because one of the letters, written in Meghan's distinctive handwriting, is addressed to someone she refers to only as the Falcon. And who that is? Well, that's where things get even stranger. Because sources say the content of that letter contains a blueprint. Not a metaphorical one. A literal blueprint. For something called the Second Court. What is that? A media venture? A legal movement? A political ambition? Or something else entirely? No one knows yet. But one thing is clear. This isn't just about a safe and a villa. It's about the legacy of a woman who refused to follow the script, who wrote her own rules, and may have written them in ink powerful enough to shake the palace from the inside out. And that's where our story begins. Because the villa may have been Meghan's escape, but it also became her vault. A vault of ambitions, of alliances, of betrayals. And one wrong swing of a hammer just blew the doors off. But what came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. Have you ever heard of a place so beautiful it felt cursed? A villa so luxurious, so perfectly designed, so meticulously curated that it almost seemed too good to be true? That was Meghan Markle's escape. Her crown jewel, hidden high above the cliffs of Mallorca, where olive groves stretch for miles and the Mediterranean sun kisses every stone. But no one was supposed to talk about it. Not the architects who designed it. Not the workers who built it. Not even the guests who visited. In fact, most of the locals didn't even know who owned it. It was just La Cava Blanca, the White Cave, because of its seamless white facade that blended into the hillside like a secret. But behind those walls, there were layers. Not just of privacy, not just of marble and money, but of silence. Engineered, enforced, bought, and buried. This wasn't just a vacation home. This was a vault disguised as paradise. So let's start with what the public did know. The villa had been whispered about in elite circles. Rumors said Meghan purchased it in early 2021 under the name of a shell company registered in Luxembourg. Some claimed it was a gift from a powerful friend. Others said it was Meghan's own post-Netflix investment, a future base of operations for her independent Duchess brand. Whatever the truth, it wasn't listed under her name. And if you tried to take a drone photo of it, you'd quickly find yourself jammed, blocked, or politely visited by private security who just happened to be in the area. That's how tight the security was. So why was this place so hidden? So protected? And more importantly, what was inside that Meghan didn't want anyone to see? Here's what we know. The villa was designed with 4 things in mind. Total silence. The walls were triple insulated not just for temperature, but for soundproofing. You couldn't hear a scream from the next room if you tried. 0 footprint. No social media check-ins. No tagged photos. Even the pool didn't have recognizable tiles or sculptures. Everything was replaceable, neutral, and wiped clean. Rotating staff. No permanent chefs or cleaners. Everyone was on a short-term contract. Most of them never returned twice. Most of them were foreign, with limited English or Spanish skills, by design. Biometric restrictions. Only 2 people could open the main bedroom's smart door at all times. Meghan, and one other person whose identity remains, to this day, undisclosed. Now ask yourself, who builds a fortress to relax in? And what were they trying to keep out, or keep in? According to insiders who have now broken their silence, the villa was more than just a place of rest. It was the epicenter of Meghan's real operations, the heart of her post-royal world, and every room had a purpose. The East Wing was where meetings were held, quietly, sometimes in person, sometimes virtually, but never recorded. No photos, no trace. The West Wing, allegedly transformed into a mini production studio. Yes, a studio. Green screens, lights, professional microphones, all the gear necessary to record messages, speeches, even content not yet released. Then, there was the main suite. And that's where everything changed, because it was during a late-stage renovation of the suite, ordered by Meghan herself from abroad, that the hidden safe was discovered. But before we go there, let's rewind. Why Mallorca? Out of all the places Meghan Markle could have disappeared to, why this particular island? She has history in Canada. She has connections in Los Angeles. She has properties tied to her name through various trusts. So why choose an obscure Mediterranean hideout? Because Mallorca is the island of secrets. Its coastline is dotted with villas owned by oligarchs, old money bankers, politicians escaping heat, and celebrities fleeing scandal. It's where deals are made with no paper trail, where silence is currency, where no one asks who you are as long as your payment clears. It's also where the Spanish privacy laws lean in favor of the ultra-wealthy. Reporters? Kept at a distance. Locals? Paid not to care. And police? Only knock if someone makes them. It was the perfect place for a duchess-turned-strategist to vanish, while building something the world wasn't supposed to see. Something like a safe buried in the walls. So how did the villa even get exposed? It started with a leak. Not a figurative one, a real one. In June of 2025, a freak rainstorm triggered a burst pipe in the villa's east corridor. Water seeped through the plaster, pooled behind the walls, and began damaging the internal sensors connected to the smart system. Meghan, who was in LA at the time, ordered a discreet emergency crew to enter the property and begin repairs. Their orders were clear: touch nothing that wasn't already exposed. But the humidity spread, and when a maintenance worker, hired anonymously through a subcontractor, began tapping along a suspect wall panel in the master bedroom, he expected to find rot. Instead, he struck metal. The report says he paused. Knocked again. The tone was hollow, heavy. He peeled back the first layer. Then the second. And finally, beneath layers of sealed paneling not listed in the architectural plans, he found a steel surface. Flat. Cold. Seamless. A hidden compartment. A safe. He didn't open it. He reported it to the site supervisor, who told him to leave immediately. 2 hours later, a team arrived in black vehicles. No license plates. No uniforms. The renovation was halted. The contractor was paid double to forget the project, and the villa was locked down. No one heard about it for days, but a photo had already been taken. A grainy, shadowed image of the exposed wall with a glint of steel and a faint mark. At the bottom right corner, etched in almost invisible ink, was a set of initials. M.A. Now ask yourself, who is M.A.? Marcus Anderson? A Monaco advisor? A Meghan alias? That's where things took a turn. Because once the photo surfaced privately among former palace aides, alarm bells rang. If the safe was that well hidden, what was inside it? And more terrifying, was this the only one? Because let's be honest, people don't install custom safes into bedroom walls unless they're hiding more than jewelry. This wasn't about diamonds. It was about documents, evidence, secrets. And the worst part? No one in the royal family saw it coming. Not Harry, not Charles, not William, or so they claim. Because after the photo leaked, it didn't take long before a quiet inquiry was launched, funded by unnamed interests, possibly linked to the crown itself. And that's when the villa, once silent, became loud. The story was about to explode. But the real storm? that started when the safe was finally opened. What came out of it wasn't just personal. It was political. It was international. And it would shake the palace and the world down to its very core. But hidden within that stack of documents, among the letters and files and private notes, was something even more dangerous. A name, a familiar name, written in ink that hadn't faded, attached to a letter that should never have existed. And that changed everything.